What's up, YouTube? Check that out though. Check that out. So we're here in Virgin Gorge, Arizona. Virgin River Canyon Recreation Area. I've been through here many times, but I'm trying to see if I can get the ambient light good enough to fly the drone and see the texture and contrast of this whole area. So I didn't realize how fast the light is gonna come up, and I barely had my drone set up. So with that being said, let's get to it, right? Lot of shot at this, so this is once in a lifetime. Well, not once in a lifetime, but this is very rare for me to get here in the morning and have this kind of weather, clear weather, and you know, it's just perfect time. You see how fast you guys travel? Within seconds you'll be one area and then another area the next. Look, we're getting ready to talk about this hand. This hand is one of those hands that if you don't have enough experience on the table, you would absolutely run into these situations all the time. Without further ado, well, no, before we do that, we gotta get some coffee. The shenanigans out the way, right? I cannot ignore this any longer, or I cannot extend this any longer, except when I talk like this. But anyway, let's talk about this hand, man. This hand, we have the ace queen of spades. We're in a small blind. The early position raise, which was, he was sitting at about 420. See, the problem is I want you to remember this now, because this is gonna count towards the end on why I was thinking what I was thinking, okay? So he was sitting at actually about 420, maybe 430, the early position race, but he had stack of greens underneath the red. So from my point of view, he had a stack of hundreds of red like that, and then he had a stack of reds that were like maybe $25, and he had a stack of greens that were like 250 or something like that, or maybe a little bit more. They were underneath the reds, and I could not see them from the angle where I was sitting at. So I want you to remember that, because that is important on what my thought process was when I made this move, okay? So anyway, the hand started with him raising the $5, and then you got two limpers in, you got limpers in front of him. So I'm sitting at a small blind. I went ahead and limp in with the $5 from the small blind, and the big blind re-raised to 25. It went all the way around with 7 total, man. $25, 7 total players on before the flop. So this is $175 pre-flop, right? And the flop came king, 4, 5, spade. What a flop, man. I checked it, and then big blind bets 40. Early position raiser makes it 80. 2 other players folded. Hijack, which is seat 9, with about $100 or $900 stack, calls to 80. Button folds. So I'm sitting here, I had about $525. You probably already know where I'm heading with this. I have the best hand right now, and I knew I had the best hand. So what gave me to shoving, what put me in the position of shoving, was when I looked at original Razor, he was sitting, he looked like he was sitting at about $160 left. Remember, I told you he had a stack of 25 that were underneath the reds and that were behind the $100 stack of reds. So I could not see those 25. So in my mind, he was pot committed. So whatever he was betting 80 there for, he had to call. He was pot committed. That was my thought process. And sure enough, he had about over 300 something. So he was not pot committed. He had fold equity. I did not think he had fold equity. So long story short, I shoved all in. Original race, the big blind, calls for less. He had about $50 left. Early position that we raised to $80. He folded and hijack folded. He almost called, man. He almost called. Oh my God. So what hands they had, big blind had pocket jacks, early position had 10-7 of spades, and hijack had pocket kings. Why am I talking about this hand? Because I made the very minimum. I could have quadrupled up. Well, a little less than quadruple, but it got there. Let me know what you think about this hand, man. The way, I'm not mad at all. It's just that I'm not used to that type of stack size. You know what I mean? That kind of play in the stack sizes. There was 4 of us that were way too deep in that hand. I got so excited. And the right play there should have been a re-raise and then shove on the turn on a non-paired board. Because if I re-raised there, 10-7 of spades would have had to call, and then pocket kings would have had to call. And on the turn, I shoved. They have no choice but to call. Now they would have been pot committed and pot odds to begin with on my re-raise, and then pot committed on the after the turn. The turn and the river ran out. It was brick. None of them made it. The board did not pair. And we win the pot, man. We win the very minimum. Let me know what you think down below, man. That's why I made such a big deal about this hand, man. I had nightmares about this hand because I could have easily quadrupled up, almost quadrupled up with this hand. I mean, seriously, there is no way pocket kings would have gotten away if he called like 1.5 times re-raise. So 80 plus 80 plus 40. So you're talking about maybe 200 plus. A 200 plus re-raise, no chance that pocket kings was folding, no chance that 10-7 spades was folding. So sick, man. It was the rush, you know. I'm not justifying my play, but the way I was thinking about it is that the pocket kings could not have called because the kind of image I put on him, you know. So I guess that bit me in the ass. It's okay. Learning curve, right? Learning curve. You know, the crazy thing is pocket kings almost called. He knew he was beat, but he almost called. He was willing to gamble. He was even saying, I might want to gamble here, man. He said, I might want to gamble. It was definitely a bad shove on my part. Let me know down below what you think about that hand, man. We already know, we already established now that I made a bad play. We already did that. We knew that. So let me know how you could have played that hand. We're in Vegas. We're definitely going to play some poker while we're here. Let's go play some poker.